Well, we're joined now by that very Green MP, Caroline Lucas.
That was a cheeky introduction, I have to say.
It was indeed. Now, did you listen to the interview live?
I didn't hear it live. It was quite early, no.
You caught up with it, and when you did catch up with it, what did you think?
Well, it's clearly not Natalie at her best, is it? It was a poor interview. She'd said so herself. She wasn't feeling well, but she wasn't across the figures. But, you know, I do think we need a bit of proportion when it comes to this. You know, it does happen to us all. We are all human. And, you know, the reporter's point saying that, you know, you don't hear it, other politicians having these problems. I mean, come off it. We had Ed Miliband, you know, forgetting about the deficit completely when it came to his conference speech. You know, we often hear about Ed Balls, for example, forgetting the name of any business that supported Labour. It happens, and I think that in public life, we need to be a little bit more understanding and, dare I say, you know, forgiving when people aren't always able to get exactly the right word at the right moment.
So you think the vilification that followed was not fair? Is that what you're saying?
I'm saying that it's disproportionate. You know, I would far rather be coming here talking about this than I would if in my party we had a Jack Straw or a Malcolm Rifkind who was being accused of cash for access. That, to me, is where the real problems lie. Someone had a bad day. It happens. Move on. So I think it's disproportionate.
Well, some say bad day, others say bad leader. I mean, are you getting Green members saying, will you stand again as leader?
I don't think it's about being a bad leader. What she's doing is going around the country in a way that, frankly, I never could because of my responsibilities in Brighton. What she's doing is going to a different town every single night, rallying people to the Green cause. And under her leadership, to be fair, we've seen membership go up from, what was it, about 15,000 this time last year to about 55,000.
But are some of those members today saying, will you stand again? Will you step into the breach as leader?
I haven't heard anybody saying that, no. But I think what they are saying is that we need to look after Natalie and look after all of our people that in the front line, because, you know, come on, we're a small party. We don't have the hundreds of advisors that the other parties have, and even with that number of advisors, frankly, they sometimes have a bad day. A bad day can be moved on from. What really matters is the Green Party offering a real alternative at this election on a whole range of issues.
Well, what matters are those issues, and that's where Natalie Bennett came a cropper. Our fact-check team have been looking at all these policies that you've been pledging. Let's look at the wealth tax, for example, and it won't raise anywhere near the £42 billion that you say it will, according to the IPPR.
Well, I haven't got the figures that you've got in front of you. What we can say is that in Spain, it came up with, you know, well over £1 billion in Spain. We can say that there are, you know, really...
42 billion, though, is it?
It's not 42 billion, but, you know, I haven't got the analysis that you've got there. But what we were saying at today's launch was that this is not the moment when we're going to be going into lots of detail of policy. This is when we were talking about the fact that we're standing in 90% of constituencies across the country. We will have a manifesto launch. When we do, rest assured, all of those figures will be in the right place.
So you're going back to the drawing board now on those figures, on the wealth tax?
I think we will be definitely making sure after today that those figures are extremely robust. But I would come back to the fact of saying that what the party was launching today was its overall campaign. That means we were saying that for the first time ever, we're going to be standing in 90% of seats, which means that people will have the chance to vote Green who never had that chance before.
OK, well, just so they know what they're voting for, what about the citizens' income, which Fact Check has also been analysing? That's your policy of replacing means-tested benefits with a £72 a week flat payment. The man who dreamt up the idea, Malcolm Torrey, says it would be impossible for a government to implement and we ought to look for an alternative. Will you admit now that it's not really going to happen that way?
Well, I've always said, and indeed Natalie has clarified, that the issue of the citizens' income was never going to be in the manifesto as a policy to be implemented at the next election. It is a work in progress. We've always said that. We have a commitment to trying to find the best way to ensure that people are not caught in the poverty trap. What the citizens' income does is to make sure that you get people having a basic guaranteed income so they don't lose out when they then take work on top of that. So that commitment remains. We've always said it was not going to be a policy to bring in May 2015, which is why it'll be mentioned in our policy manifesto, but it won't be a commitment to introduce it until we've got all of those figures beautifully out in front of you.
OK, Caroline Lucas, thank you very much for joining me.